Coming up next, mail-in ballots are once again a hot topic this election, with mounting fears of whether voters' ballots will actually count.
Plus, controversial conservative media personality Charlie Kirk visits Penn State, inciting counter-protests.
Racists are not welcome here!
And Pennsylvania's mounting crisis in the classroom.
There are a lot of teachers, beginning teachers, who don't make what I think is a respectful amount of money for their starting salary.
The Center County Report starts now. Good afternoon, I'm Thomas English.
And I'm Jordan Spagnoli. Thanks for joining us for the Center County Report. Our top story, Pennsylvania voters are not yet able to cast ballots because the mail-in packets are not ready, and the process could drag on for several more weeks. Yaya One reports.
The U.S. Postal Service is assuring election officials nationwide that it can handle the flood of mail ballots ahead of Election Day. That's after those officials warned of potential delivery issues. At the same time, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has ruled voters could have their mail-in ballots thrown out if they don't write accurate dates on the envelopes. Mail-in voting is once again in the headlines. With this new state Supreme Court ruling, voting activists and citizens alike are worried that their ballots are going to be thrown out. And in a state like Pennsylvania, every vote counts.
And when those ballots get thrown out, they may not get counted, or they won't get counted, which can really sway which way the vote goes. And so I don't think it's fair because a lot of people choose to vote by mail because they can't go in person on Election Day.
Pennsylvania does not have early voting where people can cast ballots at the polls before Election Day, like some other states. Voters here can apply for their mail ballot in person at their local elections office and submit their mail ballot in one visit, but they can't vote at a polling place before Election Day.
I think it's very important that we do emphasize that mail-in voting is just as important as voting in person, and that nobody should feel like their vote is worth any less than it is based on the form that they're doing it.
But the Center County Elections Office told us we have brought on multiple temporary election workers to supplement our full-time staff. The office says it works closely with the Postal Service and other agencies to make sure ballots are distributed and returned securely. In State College, I'm Yaya Wan for the Center County Report.
Center County already has more than 15,000 mail-in and absentee ballot applications. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is October 29th, 1 week before election.
Former President Donald Trump plans a campaign stop in Pennsylvania on Monday. He'll hold a campaign rally at Indiana University at 7 p.m. Meantime, the man accused in Sunday's apparent assassination attempt on Trump, Ryan Ruth, remains in custody in Florida awaiting his next court appearance. Body cam video shows his arrest. Secret Service agents opened fire after seeing someone with a gun near Trump's golf club while he was playing.
Investigators are still trying to find out what started a fire that caused heavy damage to a church in Patton Township. It happened overnight last weekend at Woody Crest United Methodist Church on West Clearview Avenue and caused the partial collapse of the building. One firefighter was hurt at the scene. Once again this Sunday, they'll hold their church service in the parking lot. There's also a GoFundMe set up for donations.
An anti-hazing bill known as the Stop Campus Hazing Act is moving forward in Congress. The bill is partially shaped by the death of Penn State student Tim Piazza, who died after a night of hazing at a Penn State fraternity house. A House committee has passed the bill. The goal is to increase transparency by requiring hazing incidents to be reported in annual Clery reports. The next step is for the full House to vote on the measure.
Penn State President Neely Bendapudi sat down with student media recently to talk about important issues on campus. I talked with her about the university's challenging budget situation. Penn State is making a big push for more state money. The Board of Trustees has approved the university's request for a $40 million state funding increase for next year's budget. That follows 5 years of mostly stagnant funding. 30 of the $40 million would go to general support for the university's academic mission and discounted tuition rates for PA residents. President Neely Bendapudi says increased state funding will help bridge the gap between Penn State and other universities.
I decided that when I came here 2 years ago that we needed to at least highlight the problem because one of the things was I don't think that I fully realized what was happening and recognized that many of our faculty, staff, board members, broader community didn't realize how much that disparity had grown from the 1980s on.
Current state funding is $5,789 per student, less than other universities in Pennsylvania. Pitt receives $9,538 per student, and Temple gets $10,505 per student. The national average for public universities is just over $11,000. Bendapudi has asked the state for what she calls fair performance-based funding.
Let's say the two of you do the exact same work and it's high quality. One gets an A, one gets a D. That's not fair, right? Like, that's all we're asking for.
If the $40 million increase is approved, it'll bring Penn State's total state funding to more than $391 million. Penn State's general support appropriation has been stuck at $242 million since 2020.
Some local school districts now have more funding for eliminating environmental hazards from their schools. The State College Area District has been awarded a state grant of nearly $106,000. It'll use the money to pay for lead abatement at the high school. More than 100 districts around the state are getting money through the program, including Penns Valley.
Many schools around the state are still struggling to fill teacher positions this fall. Reporter Haley Jacobs is here with the story. Haley?
Yeah, Jordan, good afternoon to you and Thomas. So the State Education Association says over the past decade, there's been a 50% drop in program enrollment for new teachers. Add to that lots of retirements and shortages in Philadelphia and rural districts between Harrisburg and State College, and it adds up to trouble. Pennsylvania is facing a classroom crisis. The state needs more teachers, 15,000 more, according to a recent Penn State study.
There are a lot of teachers, beginning teachers, who don't make what I think is a respectful amount of money for their starting salary.
Grays Woods elementary teacher Erin DePerna says money has a lot to do with it, but she sees other reasons too, like the workload.
I think that there are people who realize after they're in for up to 5 years, they start thinking, I don't know if I can do this for the rest of my life.
There's the actual classroom teaching, but also lesson planning, grading, training, and more outside of the work hours.
I think a lot of people feel like they work 9 months and then you get summers off, that you're hanging out with kids, that it's not very academically challenging.
Altoona Superintendent Brad Hatch sees the numbers of new teachers, and they're concerning.
There was probably a third of the number of certified teachers coming out in 2023, 2024 than it had been maybe 10 years prior.
In Center County specifically, teacher supply has decreased by 35%. The average entry-level teacher salary in Pennsylvania is around $50,000. Hatch says more financial help could be one solution.
Incentivizing that profession with either some type of college financial assistance and or loan repayback. I really feel like that's the avenue that you need to go.
The state is now offering a $10 million student teacher support program. It offers $10,000 stipends for student teachers. But there's a catch. Applicants must commit to teaching in Pennsylvania for 3 years. Secondary ed major Shay Iyer isn't sold.
It's like, yeah, I'm guaranteed a job, but is it really gonna sustain me?
In fact, more teachers are leaving the field. The attrition rate is up to 7.7%.
The biggest reasons that we find that when we talk to them, there's more flexibility in terms of the ability to work from home or to, a partial 3-2 type schedule, and income potential.
And that's why former teacher Hillary Buholtz left.
It kind of works around my mom's schedule, really. I'm able to volunteer in my kids' classrooms, able to take them to school, home, do all the things that I couldn't do as a full-time teacher.
School districts hope higher pay and other incentives help reverse the trend because teaching is critical to the community.
Kind of the cliche is teachers impact every other profession, but it's not cliche, it's true.
Reporting in State College, I'm Haley Jacobs for the Center County Report.
Experts say the shortage is especially bad in some districts when it comes to special ed and English as a second language teachers. Still to come, will we see any rain this weekend? We check the 7-day forecast.
Plus some help on the way for our veterans in our area. Also coming up, protests at Penn State as a controversial personality holds an event on campus. As election season ramps up in Pennsylvania, controversial conservative social media figure Charlie Kirk made a return visit to State College this week. Reporter Ethan Ellis shows you the event at Penn State.
A campus divided. Protesters on Penn State's hub lawn shouting at Charlie Kirk, calling the conservative media personality racist and transphobic in a statement posted online by the protest organizers, the Student Committee for Defense Solidarity. Micah Chandler, president of Turning Point USA's Penn State chapter, says the chants have no validity.
Just because Charlie Kirk has a more conservative point of view, I would say it's not racist or homophobic. It's just pro-America and putting Americans first. And I think that just calling one whole side of the political spectrum racist is just reductive and unnecessary.
As a crowd gathered ahead of Kirk's arrival, Turning Point USA staff handed out merchandise and registered people to vote. Registration is something they say is important no matter your political beliefs.
Whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, it doesn't really matter. You want to make your voice heard because this is our opportunity to really make an impact on where our nation is headed.
Kirk only spoke for a few minutes before joining the crowd to take pictures and sign everything from a Zing container to a chicken sandwich. His supporters then turned their attention to the protesters. As you can see behind me, protests have erupted here at the Charlie Kirk rally, and now that Charlie Kirk's done speaking, some of his supporters have started to come over and heckle some of the protesters. Demonstrators spoke out against Kirk and his controversial statements, and also the university for allowing his event. In a recent video, University President Neeli Bendapudi defended free speech on campus.
During this academic year, you may hear from speakers with a wide range of opinions visiting our campus. Their presence is not an endorsement by the university, but our support of the First Amendment.
While the two groups did come close to each other, protesters slowly moved back and eventually left without any physical violence. In University Park, I'm Ethan Ellis for the Center County Report.
Racists are not welcome here!
The speaking portion of Kirk's event was cut short as Penn State officials said the group did not have permission to use voice-amplifying devices on campus.
Penn State is receiving a national grant to create a Veterans Business Outreach Center. The center, to be located at Innovation Park, will give training and counseling to veterans and military spouse small business owners across Pennsylvania. Penn State is one of 3 organizations to share the combined $1 million grant from the U.S. Small Business Administration.
Real nice day here at State College across the region. It's about 70 degrees outside right at the end. And look at the leaves starting to change a little bit here at the Arboretum. 73 outside, a really, really pleasant Friday. But don't worry, the pattern is actually going to change going forward. This afternoon, getting up towards a little over 80 degrees here in State College around 4 p.m., cooling down into the mid-60s overnight. So a pleasant evening to be outside if you want to have a grill out or whatever you feel like doing outside. That's real nice. Tonight's forecast across the region here in State College and up towards Bradford. Those are your cool spots running about 58, 59. Harrisburg, always a little bit warmer, running about 65 or so. Some clouds, winds are generally calm. So it's not going to be anything that you really have to worry about weather-wise overnight tonight. It'll be nice, though. Looking forward, though, tomorrow for the game here in Center County. It's about 70 degrees for your pregame. Some sun and clouds mixed as you're out there with your tailgates, getting your grills fired up, whatever you're going to do. Start of the game, clouds are starting to thicken a little bit. Starts to get a little more interesting. Now here in the second half, this is where the problem starts to arrive. There's a real chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms later in the evening, especially as you get towards the 6, 7 p.m. hour. Second half, always the chance for a lightning delay, unfortunately, with thunderstorms. So really be prepared, bring a poncho, bring something to protect yourself from the rain because it might end up being interesting. Looking overnight at the futurecast, you sort of see these clouds sort of meandering through the state, sort of nothing that you're going to really have to be interested in weather-wise, but just enough that it'll cover up the sort of, if you're looking at the moon, for instance, it'll cover that up. But going forward into the next day, tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon, this is right around game time. You sort of see this line of broken showers sort of running from the northern tier down along 99 into Johnstown area. That's really where the showers are going to come from. You'll sort of see them pop up again on the northern tier, 645. Look at how these showers and storms are started to slide south a little bit, and that's where you start to get worried. Now, it goes forward, and now this is the problem. Right around 10 o'clock is where it's really, at least according to this model, when it gets into State College. This will be after the game, and it'll clear itself by Sunday morning, sort of that low fog and clouds that we've been seeing the past couple days here in Center County. And you may see that again on Sunday morning. Your 7-day forecast, today is nice. Scattered showers and thunderstorms possible tomorrow, but here comes the pattern change. Going forward into next week, rain and thunder, rain, especially sort of a gray week, showers sprinkling through. I guess fall's finally starting to arrive here in earnest here in central Pennsylvania. So we can all kind of expect it though.
Well, Sean, hey, do us a favor and keep those thunderstorms away during Penn State football, will
I
ya?
will try, Jordan.
Yes, hoping for clear skies for the game tomorrow. We'll now send it to Anthony Descher with sports.
Penn State football looks to fix some issues as it returns from a bye week, but a serious new injury has popped up. Also ahead, we were in Pittsburgh for the monster matchup between Penn State and Pitt on the volleyball court, number 1 versus number 3. I'm Anthony Descher with sports. Penn State football is back on the field tomorrow to take on Kent State after a bye week. Here's our preview.
The 2-0 Penn State Nittany Lions are back from the bye after a tougher-than-expected battle against Bowling Green. Defensive tackle Keziah Izzard says the week off was a chance to get better.
No, I definitely think it was a good reset button, especially coming off a game, coming off Bowling Green. I don't think we we're up to our standard. So, we just took this week to get better, work on the things that we messed up on.
Against the Falcons, Tyler Warren had himself a day. A career-high 8 receptions for 146 yards, a Penn State record for a tight end. It was a scrappy battle, one that many fans didn't expect, but the Nittany Lions got the job done. Coach James Franklin praised Warren.
I think Tyler Warren's the most complete tight end in college football. I think a lot of times it's lazy when we give the awards to the guy, especially at the tight end position, that has the most catches and the most yards. There's a lot more to playing tight end than just catches and yards. And he's a complete tight end, which is to me what the award should be about.
Now, the Nittany Lions turn their attention to Kent State, another MAC school, but they'll do so without starting safety KJ Winston, who's out with a long-term injury. This game marks the 7th meeting between the two sides, with the Nittany Lions holding a 6-0 advantage in the series.
Kickoff is at 3:30 p.m. and you can listen live to the game on Penn State Com Radio. Now to high school football, let's take a look at some of the big games we're covering this weekend. 3-1 State College will hit the road to face off against 1-3 Chambersburg. State College looking to continue a dominant stretch. Winless Penns Valley will visit 2-2 Belfont, a very important matchup for both teams in this game. And Phillipsburg Osceola will host Bald Eagle. Both teams are 2-2. You can see highlights on After the Whistle. The PIAA has officially approved girls flag football as a state-sanctioned sport. The organization required at least 100 participating teams across the state. That threshold was reached in April with 65 schools in the eastern PA and 36 in the west. The Nittany Lions women's volleyball is back on the court this weekend for the Penn State Classic. We were in Pittsburgh this week as the number 3 Lions took on number 1 Pitt. Josh Bartosik reports.
As the Pitt band played Heartbreaker, so did the top-ranked Panthers against number 3 Penn State, dominating in a straight sweep. In front of a sellout and record-breaking crowd in Pittsburgh, the blue and gold fed off that energy, jumping out to as much as a 10-point lead in set 1 and never looking back.
Walking out of the tunnel from the locker room for warm-ups, I got chills, hearing the crowd cheer for us and just looking around and seeing all the seats basically filled.
Penn State was more competitive in set 2, fighting neck and neck with the nation's top team, but they just couldn't string together a run. Just like their neighbors down the road back in the 1970s, the Pittsburgh Panthers were a steel curtain defensively, stifling any attack Penn State threw their way, making it a rough night for the blue and white. The Panthers' 9 blocks nearly doubled the Nittany Lions' 5, and with 17 kills from Tori Stafford and 13 kills from Olivia Babcock, the Panthers continued their unbeaten set streak to 21 straight.
I thought they were flawless at times, and they stepped on the gas and didn't let off, and I think that's what great teams do.
The blue and white will look to build off a 6-0 run in the final set and a 10-kill performance from Cameron Hanna. In Oakland, I'm Josh Bartosik for the Center County Report.
The Lions' next match is tonight against JMU at Rec Hall. Now to Jeffrey Field for Penn State women's soccer as the number 9 Lions were back on the pitch. The Nittany Lions continued their dominance in Big Ten play last night, beating Northwestern 1-0. After a scoreless first half, the Nittany Lions came out and scored right away in the 49th minute with a goal from Caitlin McBean. It's her 10th of the season. We'll see them back in action on Sunday afternoon against Michigan State for the Wear-White game. That's all for sports. Now back to you, Thomas and Jordan.
And I'm sure Penn State students are ready to be back inside Beaver Stadium, firing up the tailgates and flooding the student section.
Absolutely. I know I cannot wait to be back in Beaver this weekend for a good football game. But thanks, Anthony. Coming up, a viral phenomenon that hit the ground running this summer in New York City has made its way to State College.
A new running club in State College is booming in popularity. Penn State's We Are Runners has built a large following by tapping into a TikTok trend that took cities by storm over the summer. Pairing with Penn State Barstool, the club shared the idea with a simple concept: wear black if you're single. Runners split up by mile time and take on the 2-mile loop that kicks off on the steps of Old Main and takes runners around campus. The next run is set for Sunday.
I have been seeing this all over social media, so it's exciting to see it here at Penn State. But that's all for today's newscast. We hope you'll join us Tuesday for our next local news update.
And you can follow us anytime for breaking news on our Center County Report X. And you can see our stories on our Facebook page, Instagram, YouTube, and our website. Have a great afternoon.